In Colorado, for the last 2 years, and now, we are facing a battle as serious, as terrific, as any we fought in the Civil War or the World War. We are face to face with a gigantic battle of peace, the battle for Americanism. In the 1920s, the Ku Klux Klan rose quickly to power in Denver, Colorado, and used that authority to systematically target groups. Along with their rise was an abuse of power, widespread police persecution, and targeting of Catholics and African Americans. They were aided by increased violence stemming from Prohibition. The Klan infiltrated the city's governmental systems, influencing local power structures and using that power to commit systematic rights violations. Their rise and abuse of authority raises questions about the responsibility of individuals as well as government systems to defend the civil liberties of all within the confines of the First Amendment. This struggle can be seen with modern-day hate groups such as QAnon. In the early 1900s, an influx of immigrants arrived in Denver seeking economic opportunities associated with the West. This exacerbated ethnic tensions. European Denverites discriminated against Chinese and Japanese workers, placing the Germans of Denver in a position of prestige in comparison to other immigrants. This dynamic was significantly altered in 1916 following the enactment of statewide prohibition, which affected the German population's traditional alcohol-based jobs. Additionally, Prohibition resulted in heightened crime rates, often blamed on poor immigrants. Catholics were viewed as incompatible with the democratic nation as spies who sought to disrupt the social hierarchy and hurt white Protestants. Anti-communist movements also proliferated throughout Denver, culminating in the Red Scare of 1916 to 1920. The state passed laws and acts with the intention to curb the anarchy they associated with Denver's immigrant population. During World War I, Denver and Colorado as a whole benefited from the wartime need for food and materials. Following the war's end and subsequent lack of necessity, Denver was wrecked. Other cities across the U.S. flourished economically, hence the nickname the Roaring Twenties, yet Denver stayed behind, creating intense resentment of the supposed cause: immigrants. The original Ku Klux Klan developed as a violent response to the white feelings of displacement post-Civil War. The KKK in the 1900s cloaked itself as a patriotic organization with the intentions to preserve traditional white Protestant values. Its members adopted nationalistic and nativist viewpoints that expanded from the southern U.S. On June 17, 1921, the Ku Klux Klan announced their presence in Denver by publishing an open letter in the Denver Times. This second iteration of the Klan spread its hateful beliefs further, targeting not only African Americans, but Catholics, Irish, Italians, and Hispanics in hope of establishing order. The KKK preyed upon the widespread distrust of minorities prevalent in Denver. Members joined not only because of racist beliefs, but because of the economic and physical power the Klan wielded. However, in the early years of the Klan, they lacked any real control of politics. On May 15, 1923, Ben Stapleton was elected mayor. This represented a complete shift in the KKK's presence in Denver. Stapleton, on the surface, was fervently anti-KKK. Many Klan politicians hid their allegiance to avoid criticism from moderate voters. Stapleton claimed that, quote, true Americanism needs no mask or disguise. Any attempt to stir racial prejudice or intolerance is contrary to our Constitution and is therefore un-American. Despite publicly denouncing the KKK, Stapleton was an avid member, benefiting from the political connections the Klan gave him access to. Following his election, Stapleton instituted dozens of Klansmen in the government, including the manager of safety, city attorney, parks manager, and city accountant. His most significant appointment would be William J. Candlish as police chief, a man so involved in the KKK that he ascended to the rank of Grand Dragon, a rank only given to members trusted with leading a state. Candlish, nicknamed Candy Candlish for his frequenting of candy shops, promoted Klansmen within the police department and relegated Irish and Catholic officers to the night shift. Within a matter of months, both the police force and courts were controlled by the KKK, taking away the right to fair trial from thousands of Denverites. Non-Klansmen were targeted by the police, treated unfairly by the courts, and had their houses attacked. Businesses banned non-Klansmen from entrance, signaling their allegiance to the organization with their 3 K-word slogans. Hate crimes were common, especially the burning of crosses, such as the July 4, 1923 burning of a 30-foot cross on top of Pikes Peak. Resistors were faced with the crucial responsibility to fight back. As one journalist from the Denver Jewish News expressed in 1921, quote, I protest against the un-American character of Ku Klux Klanism, and I feel reasonably certain that the men who have become members or followers thereof are not aware of the anti-American force of this entire conspiracy. The KKK was viewed as fundamentally incompatible with the resistors' definitions of freedom.
One instance of resistance was District Attorney Philip Van Cise's attempt to share the crimes of the KKK with the citizens. Van Cise was a war veteran and a famed crime buster. At the start of 1923, he was one of the most famous men in Denver, even being asked to run for mayor. Van Cise refused the offer, and instead campaigned for district attorney. He led the charge against the KKK, with Phil Horbine leading the legal prosecution. Van Cise had been offered membership early into Stapleton's term by John Locke, the leader of the Coloradan branch of the KKK. He declined, citing the KKK's blatant corruption. In response to the appointment of Clandish, Van Cise attempted to recall Stapleton. While his case never directly mentioned the Klan, it talked of the crime that runs rampant in our midst. Van Cise was aware of the corruption within the courts and police, and believed the best way to share his message was directly with the citizens of Denver. However, the newspapers were unable to speak freely of the Klan, violating their right to the freedom of press. Grand Dragon John Locke would threaten publications that planned on publishing unflattering accounts of the KKK. Locke told the co-owner of the Denver Post, Frederick Bonfils, that if he didn't replace his unflattering portrayal of the Klan with a more positive one, his building would soon become the flattest place on Champa Street. The fundamental right to free speech was taken away by an organization deeply intertwined with the government itself, the same government that had promised to protect such rights. Van Cise's recall would ultimately fail, and Ben Stapleton would be elected 3 more times. His attempt represented the responsibility that ordinary Denverites took upon themselves. However, these efforts were all unsuccessful. The KKK was too powerful and had the right to free speech, the right to hold office, and had been elected by the people. Despite their unfair enforcement of the law and suppression of journalism, there was no way for common people to remove them from the position of power. The KKK would ultimately fall due to a lack of interest from younger Denverites as well as financial mismanagement by their own leaders. In the short term, the rise of the KKK in Denver led to a significant change in local power structures, as Klan members dominated the police department, business community, and political offices. White supremacy was deeply rooted into Denver society. The Denver Post estimates that approximately 1/3 of white men in Denver were Klan members. This gave the Ku Klux Klan the ability to inflict discriminatory practices that targeted minority groups' workforces and their livelihoods. This massive membership ensured that KKK members would be seen in all aspects of the community, normalizing prejudice in daily life. The residue of hate groups still remains in Colorado. The KKK's ideologies would be entrenched into Denver's landscape for decades after the 1920s. The Klan left a lasting imprint on Denver that can still be observed in the city's public spaces and its ongoing struggles with race and identity. Key symbols of the Klan's legacy, such as the portrait of Klan leader Governor Clarence Morley in the state capitol, and the neighborhood and airport named after Ben Stapleton, are reminders of the deep connections between the Klan's ideology and the city's development. The renaming of the Stapleton neighborhood to Central Park in 2020 is a direct response to this history. Despite efforts to dismantle symbols of hate, the legacy of the Klan's white supremacist agenda has not disappeared. Its ideas have been revived by new hate groups who continue to spread ideologies of racial division and violence. As Jeremy Shaver of the Anti-Defamation League states, quote, "No community is immune to white supremacy, and Colorado is no exception. In Denver specifically, the relationship between the KKK's white supremacy and modern discrimination is evident. Furthermore, the rise of hate groups in the post-2016 political climate has reignited concerns over white supremacy and its influence on modern society. As Heidi Burek explained, the number of hate groups has dramatically risen post-election, quote, seeing a 30% increase in the numbers of these groups. Through public demonstrations, hate crimes, and political rhetoric, the ideologies the Klan utilized are once again in the public eye. The modern resurgence of white supremacist groups shows that the battle for racial equality is far from over, and demonstrates the persistent power of the Klan's ideologies and their ongoing threat to marginalized communities. The immediate impact of the Klan in Denver was profound, as over 30,000 members within the city pushed a discriminatory agenda that targeted African Americans and immigrant populations. Their rise to power allowed them to control local government, law enforcement, and social norms, creating an environment where exclusion and intimidation were institutionalized. Even as this power declined, echoes of the KKK's influence in Denver society remained prevalent. The modern rise of hate groups and their ongoing struggles against systematic racism are, in many ways, an echo of the Klan's historical influence. These groups often draw on the same racial ideologies that the Klan promoted, making it clear that the Klan's legacy of hatred and division still impacts communities today. This has placed the responsibility to address hate groups on the common people, protecting targeted groups' fundamental rights. In conclusion, the role of the KKK in Denver has left an indelible mark on the city and created a foundation for future hate groups to base their ideologies and systems off of.